So this is going to speak to anybody who feels blocked, who feels like things aren't working out for you no matter how hard you try. You might have used things like law of attraction teachings, manifestation mindsets, and they just don't seem to work for you, and why that is, and how those can actually hold people in a prison of disempowerment, and how to see yourself in more of an empowered light. First of all, these kind of law of attraction teachings can be incredibly toxic, because when things aren't working out the way you think and the way that you want, you begin to blame yourself. You begin to hold shame and feelings like you're a failure, feelings like life itself is rejecting you, and maybe even God is rejecting you. And so it just feeds this toxic, disempowered identity of feeling like you don't belong in this world for some reason, that you are being rejected for some reason, and we internalize that, right? So we can actually see how law of attraction teachings, manifestation mindsets are so rooted in externalization, so rooted in seeking happiness, approval, belonging by manifesting something that's external. Now, when we are in this mindset, when we're in this way of thinking, we are aligning to an old dimension that's rooted in external validation. That's toxic. We can call that dimension a living hell. Now, on the flip side, we have a dimension called heaven, the kingdom of heaven, right? And that's why the kingdom of heaven is within us, because heaven is about internal validation and being internally validated by God, and just aligning with purity, clearing distortion, clearing the old identity that believes that it has to find belonging and approval and validation in the external world. When we are in that mindset, when we're in that frame of mind, we are in a limitation. We're abandoning our soul. We're not allowing our soul to come into its fullest expression. And we're actually, the irony is, we're actually blocking the co-creative experience between our true identity, our Christed identity, and God. Now, God is as in the ultimate creator, the force of creation that innovates. And when we're in heaven, we're ultimately in a state of trust, surrender. We believe and we know ourselves to be a child of God. And you come into an alignment with the flow of creation that is so miraculous. And what happens is creator begins to create more than you could possibly ever need or want. And it's like you come into this state of complete awe, because you become a living witness in your own life to God's miracles. Now, that is where your soul can thrive. So from this perspective, if you felt like law of attraction, manifestation mindsets don't work out for you and you've been blocked, you can begin to see how protected you are. You can see how God has been protecting the light of your soul from abandoning itself and beginning to form a false identity that's rooted in the external world, and beginning to experience a very limited, false experience of creation. You're here to experience true creation with it as a co-creator with original creator. That's more about dissolving the old identity that's rooted in fear and lack, And that identity, the fear and lack identity, is the identity that's drawn to things like law of attraction, right? Because it kind of gives us this false promise that we can create from that place of unfulfillment, right? And we're actually creating from a place of fear. Now, you can never actually create from a place of fear. Creation and love go hand in hand. Innovation, creation, miracles come from a place of purity of intention, purity of heart. So we have to go through this process of clearing all judgment, all comparison, all need for external validation and approval. And this is why so many people who this video will speak to are people who've been put into isolation. Your isolation has been your protection from that old dimension, the living hell of externalization, external validation, seeking the approval of that dimension. Because you're here to be internally validated. And when you're internally validated and you truly know and recognize yourself to be loved by God, original ultimate creator, you claim your Christed identity and you align with heaven, where you align with this miraculous flow of creation. So God has asked me to make these videos to help people to recognize that they are a child of God, because we've lived in this inverted dimension, right? We can call the living hell, where people that carry the most unique light have received the most rejection. And so you've built up this sense of self that's rooted in doubt and disempowerment. But the truth is that when God sets you apart, in the world you might feel like you are forgotten. When you look at yourself through the worldly lens, you feel forgotten, unseen, and isolated. But when you start to see yourself through the heavenly lens, you start to see that you've been set apart. You start to see that you've been chosen by God. Your soul is chosen by God to stay authentic to the frequency and the dimension of heaven. God has protected you because you are so loved. Your soul is so seen, so known. You were never meant to abandon your truth, your authentic soul truth, in the dimension of fear, in the dimension of suffering, of hell, in external validation. So you can take this perspective and meditate with it, journal with it, and I know that it's going to reach those who it's meant to.